This is lesson 8.6, writing and graphing inequalities. This is something we did last year, so it should not be too new to you. So it's a lot of review in this lesson. Make sure you take some good notes because I have a lot of things you're going to have to look back at your notes for. So the first thing I have for you is the word inequality. An inequality states that two quantities are either equal or may not be equal. We talked about this last year. These are what my inequality signs look like. You've done this since you were little. We have greater than and we have less than. We have greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. The ones you're the most familiar with are these right here because you've been using those since you've been young. These right here are new to you. They were new to you last year. When you get these in your notebook, you have to make sure that you write all the words that come behind the sign because eventually we're going to be translating sentences into inequalities, and sometimes they're going to use some of these key words, and if the sentence is like is fewer than, you have to know that it is this sign. So make sure that you get all the words that go behind them also. I don't even know if these are in the book very well for you, but so if you take some good notes, then you should be able to have them in your notebook and you should be able to look back. First thing I'm going to talk about are two more vocabulary words, and this is algebraic inequality. So this is an inequality that contains a variable. We've been talking about equations, so now we're talking about inequalities, which instead of an equal sign, we're going to be having one of these signs. Okay, so instead of an equal sign, we're going to be having an actual inequality sign in our problem. Solution set is my next vocabulary word, and a solution set are all the possible answers to an inequality. Here's the cool thing. If I say x is greater than 5, x can be so many different things. So think of what could be greater than 5. 6 could be greater than 5, 7 could be greater than 5, 8 could be greater than 5, 9 could be greater than 5. We could go on forever. If I have x is less than or equal to 7, what could x be? Well, x could be 7 because it's or equal to. But if it says x is less than or equal to, it could be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The solution set are all the possible things that x could be. So the difference between an equation, and I've explained this before, but I'm going to explain it again. Equations only have one answer. Okay, hence why, like, if I have 3 plus x, it gives me 5. X is 2. X has to be 2. There's no other possibility. Well, if I have inequalities, if I have 5 plus, oh, I'm sorry, if I have x plus 3 is greater than 7, and if I'd solve this, okay, minus 3, x is going to be less than 4. That means if x is less than 4, it could be 3, 2, 1. So let's say we say x is 3. If we put 3 up for here, that means 3 plus 3 would be 6. So 6 would be less than 7. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make this true. We're trying to find out what things can go in here to make it less than 7. So the thing about inequalities or equations is there's one answer. Inequalities has many answers. Okay? All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about with inequalities is graphing. Now, graphing inequalities is actually kind of fun. You don't have to use a coordinate plane. You actually use a number line. The first thing I need you to write down is this, and you'll remember this from last year. An open dot means these two signs, and a closed dot or a colored in dot means these two signs. Get that in your notebook. I have many students that ask me that all the time. I don't know which sign goes with what dot. If you get it in your notebook, you'll understand. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this. X is greater than 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a number line. Okay, your number line doesn't have to be very big. It's basically a snapshot of the big number line that I have on my board. Next, I'm going to find what number is in my inequality, and that has to go in my number line. What I like to do is I like to put it in the middle. And then remember, your number line has to be so this goes higher and this is lower. So this would be a 3, this would be 4, 5, 1, 0. And it doesn't even have to be this big. A lot of times there's only like 4 numbers on your number line. Remember, it's just a snapshot. Then I look up and I say, okay, what kind of sign do I have and what kind of dot does that equal? That means it's an open dot. Okay, and then I read it to myself. A lot of us had problems with this last year. You didn't know which way the arrow needed to go. This says x is greater than 2. So then you have to think to yourself, what are some things on this number line that's greater than 2? Well, 3 is greater than 2, 4 is greater than 2, 5 is greater than 2, and you draw your arrow this way. This graph tells me the solution set for this answer. So 2, notice that even though 2 has a dot above it, it's not filled in. That means the solution set does not include 2. If it was filled in, if it had an or equal sign to it, and we color it in, then that means the solution set includes 2 and goes up. So that's why we have an open and a closed dot. It tells us what's included in that solution set. I'm going to quick do this one for you. This says x is less than -6. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make a snapshot of a number line. I'm going to put -6 in the middle. Remember, your greater numbers go this way, -5, -4, -7, -8. Okay, and I look at the sign. Is it an open or closed dot? It's going to be open dot over -6, which means the solution set does not include 6. And if x is less than -6, what are some numbers up here on this number line that are less than -6? -7 and -8. So this is how our graph would look, and this is the numbers that would be in our solution set. Okay, why don't you go ahead and try one yourself quickly so you can see how it works. I'll give you time to pause it, do it yourself, and then I'll come back and I'll do it for you. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a number line. I'm going to include the number in the problem. Okay, and if I look at the sign, I know it's a closed dot, which means 3 is going to be included in my solution set. And it says t is greater than 3 or equal to 3. T is greater than. So on my number line, what are numbers that are greater than 3, 4, 5, and so on? That's what your graph should look like. Okay, here's another. The ones that are the most tricky are the negative numbers. They are the absolute most tricky ones to graph. And it's just because a lot of us times we get confused as what should x be. This says x is less than or equal to -5. So on your, if you would graph it, x would be -6, -7, -8, -9, but 5 would also have a closed dot. So that would be included in the solution set. The next part today is writing inequalities. So it's again, you're actually translating it. You're figuring out what this would look like. Okay, so this is there are at least 25 students in the auditorium. So first thing you need to do is you need to find a keyword. I even have my keyword in capital letters for you, which is pretty nice of me. So there are at least 25 students in the auditorium. So this is how you would set up your inequality. You're going to put 25 on one side, and you're going to put x on the other side. X means we don't know how many students are in the auditorium. Okay, maybe they filled the auditorium up, there's kids in there, but we don't know how many there are. Well, now we have to put in a sign here, an inequality sign, to figure out what this would look like. So now you would flip back to your notes and you'd find what the word at least means. That means they can have 25, I think 25 or more. Let me go back and look. At least, sometimes I even get confused on this. At least is right here. So greater than or equal to, I'm going to flip back here. So it should be x is greater than or equal to 25. That means they can have 25 students or more in there. If I say you need to at least have $5 to pay your bill, you have to have 5 or more dollars to go ahead and pay that. So look for keywords. Okay, here's another one. It says no more than 150 people can occupy a room. No more than is our key words here. I know I'm going to have 150 over here, and I can have x over here. No more than means that I can have up to 150 people, but I can't have any more than. So I could have between 1 to 150 people and still be okay with the size of my room. So the inequality that should go here should be less than or equal to 150. Here's the thing. You're going to actually have to think about some. You're going to have to think about this. Oh, can I have up to 150 people? Can I have over 150 people? Like where? And then I have to think about what should my sign be. Okay, you need to be over 18 years of age. Okay, this might not have a keyword in it, but you might have to think about it. So 18 on one side, x on the other side. If you have to be over 18 years of age to do something, what sign should go in the middle? What should go here? If you need to be over 18, you need to be greater than 18. So greater than would be your sign there. So the last part is I'm going to give you some graphs, and then we have to go and write the inequality for it, which is pretty simple. It's just going backwards. So if I have 7, 8, 9, or if I have 6, and I have something that looks like this, okay, your inequality would obviously have 7 in it and an x. So what are some things? So if I look at this, I know it's going to be one of these signs, okay? But x could be 7, it could be 8, it could be 9, which means that x could be greater than or equal to 7. So your job is to write the inequality from the graph. We'll do another one. So if I have -5, okay? If I have this, okay, first you're going to start with your -5 and your x, and you're going to think, okay, what could x be here? I know that it's an open dot, so that's going to give me one of these two signs. And it looks like these numbers are less than 5, because -6 is less, -7 is less. That means that x would be less than -5. We can do one more. I'll give you a graph, and you try by yourself. Okay, here's your graph. You write the inequality from it. So 10 is going to be on one side, x on the other, or whatever variable you want to use, honestly. I know my closed dot's one of these, and it looks like on my graph, I have 11 included and 12 included, so that means x could be greater than or equal to 10. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have for you today. So hope you took some good notes, and if you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you in class in a few days.